So now what we're going to do is we're going to leave polyatomic ions for just a little bit, okay, and let you kind of soak in the wonderfulness that is polyatomic ions and memorize them and work on them, okay? What we're going to start talking about now for the next few lessons is we're going to talk about binary compounds. What we mean by a binary compound is simply a compound with only two elements in it. Now, not two atoms. Again, we're into that whole types of atoms versus numbers of atoms. Okay, two elements. H2O, water, is a binary compound. It has only hydrogen and oxygen in it. Yes, there are two hydrogens and one oxygen, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is that there's two elements. So a binary compound is a compound that only has two elements in it. All right? Now, there are three types of binary compounds. Okay? But any type of binary compound that has a metal and a nonmetal in it is referred to as an ionic compound. Okay? So two of the types of binary compounds are both ionic compounds. All right? So type 1 ionic compounds are compounds that have a metal that only has one possible charge. Okay? So if you remember, let me pull up my periodic table here. Okay, if you remember, come on. Here's my periodic table. All right, remember, Group 1 metals, your alkali metals, are always +1. Group 2 metals are always +2. Group 3 metals are always +3. Right? They can't be anything else. Right? That's why you can determine what the charge is based on where it is on the periodic table, because it can't have anything else. Okay? Well, when you have a type 1, when you have a metal from groups 1, 2, or 3, a metal with only one possible charge bonded to a nonmetal, that's going to be called a type 1 ionic compound. Okay, a type 2 ionic compound is going to be a compound that has a metal with more than one possible charge. Okay, remember we said that the transition metals can have multiple possible charges. But again, it's coupled, it's bonded to a nonmetal. Okay, so the metals that have multiple charges are going to be most of your transition metals. And then these few metals over here called the post-transition metals, so the after-transition metals. Okay, so basically your metals that are not in groups 1, 2, or 3. Okay, now there's two elements that you really have to watch out for. Okay, there's several transition metals that do only have one charge, but there's two that really show up pretty significantly and often. Okay. Those two are silver and zinc. Silver is always +1. Always. Zinc is always, okay, you get the idea, +2. Okay? Now, you can kind of remember that because Ag, silver, +1. A1. Zn, zinc, +2. Z2. A comes before Z, 1 comes before 2. Okay, so silver's +1, zinc's +2. All right, those two always have the same charge, and therefore that's a type 1 ionic compound when it has one of those metals in it. Okay, so metal with one charge, metal with one possible charge, type 1 compound with a nonmetal. Metal and nonmetal where the metal has two or more possible charges, type 2 ionic compound. Okay, so then there's one more type of binary compound called a type 3 compound. Okay, and a type 3 binary compound doesn't have a metal in it. It's two nonmetals. Okay, so the first thing that you have to be able to do if you're naming compounds, writing formulas of compounds, things like that, is you've got to be able to determine what type of compound you're going to have, because different types are going to have different systems of naming them. They're going to have different rules for naming them. So you have to be able to figure out which type of compound you're dealing with.